This evening, let's explore the fifth verse of the Spaciousness of Vajra Sattva, and then let's meditate. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is brought to you by the kind-hearted folks who help support this channel on Patreon. This evening, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Yoda on Dagobah under the guidance of Qui-Gon Jinn, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news. If at any point at all during this evening's live stream, you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. So we'll start with the actual little lesson. I don't know, it's called a homily, I guess. So, oops, wrong button. So I'm going to hit button 5. We're going to, this is our first foray, or first exploration of the folly of authoritarianism. And perhaps authoritarianism is not the right word. But there's, yes, here it is. The folly of, I can't put it there. Give me a second. Page 2. One moment, please. Okay. Splendid. Home. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, come on now. Do you bear with me? Okay, thank you very much for indulging me. So we're going to explore the logical fallacy known as the appeal to authority logical fallacy. And of course I gotta tap the right document. There we go. And it goes like this. So this must be true because that expert said it is. Well, that expert might be a good source of input, but no one's the be-all, end-all. No one with a PhD and a bucket of sanity will tell you they are the be-all, end-all, but a lot of idiots will. So let's start in. Supreme wisdom is difficult to realize except by the way of the wisdom of letting go itself. So you'll notice that certain words are smaller, italicized, and within brackets. That is my less than subtle way of saying this is a phrase I've added to amplify the text because it's been translated and retranslated across an ocean of time and in different cultures. And where some people focus on a word-for-word translation, and that's a good starting part, you can't end there. Because words serve as vehicles for ideas, and ideas are profoundly interdependent. And if we do not translate an idea in a way that is meaningful to the culture of the people hearing it or reading it, we're doing everyone a gross disservice. So the wisdom we're talking about is not the cleverness to make a longer-lasting light bulb. STEM is vital. It's great. But it's cleverness. It's not wisdom. There's nothing wrong with cleverness, but it's different. So wisdom here is the wisdom of letting go, influenced in a very centered way, and it smacks of empathy. when we are very uptight and rigid, our electrical activity pulls down in our brain to the bottom of the brain, the amygdala, the fear center. When we successfully release our stress, our electric activity ascends back up to the middle of the brain in the area known as the anterior cingulate gyrus, the seat, the functional hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy. So empathy and the wisdom of letting go are inexorably intertwined as we explore during this morning's lesson. So what we're being told here is that we can use our analytical mind if we want to. No one's going to stop us. We can contemplate all sorts of things. We can be like the Nowhere Man that the Beatles sang about in Yellow Submarine if we want to be. But it won't make us wise. We might be able to talk in circles. Maybe we might be able to display a dizzying logic. But it doesn't mean we've been enlightened. So the enlightenment the Buddha offers is the wisdom of letting go. And so there's the liberation, which is the practice of the Buddhist techniques, and there's enlightenment, which is the mastery of the techniques. And mastery is mastery. Whether you're mastering tying a shoe or mastering the Buddhist techniques, mastery is still described the same way. Anything that we do spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively, those are the hallmarks of mastery. Eddie Murphy had a great bit about that. Way back in the 80s, when the crust of the planet was still cooling, way back in the 80s, Eddie Murphy had not one but two comedy concert movies. I forgot which one, maybe the first one. He talks about your fuck face, the face you make when you're fucking. And the first one he does is when you're 19, your first time you're having sex and you're terrified, and it's just one of abject terror. And the other one is when you've been doing it for a few years, you're really comfortable, and you have some skill, you have rave reviews, and you're really getting into it, and I'm not going to make that face, it's just too embarrassing. But so even back in the 80s, Eddie Murphy, as a young man on stage, was talking about the difference between being remotely competent and actual mastery. And so we're being told here that this path of mastery is not paved with PhDs and doctoral dissertations. It's paved with practice that is easy, trenchant, and effective. After all, the Buddha said it's possible to master the path in as little as 7 days. And last time I checked, you could accomplish neither the non-dro nor doctoral degree in a week. But maybe I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, don't be shy. Tell me about it in the comment area or in the chat window. Dependence on others is merely a notional, suggested fiction. So suggested fiction is the actual definition of the word notional. I'm not smart enough to know that, so I just kind of put that in there so the other dopes like myself will not get lost. Dependence on others is merely a notional suggested fiction, since bliss actually arises naturally from within. So in other words, not all teachers are created equal. Some are sincere shedheads, others are clever and devious, and some are the real deal. Some are rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. A minority are flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So don't settle. Life is short. Don't settle for a partner. Don't settle for a teacher. Choose a teacher who is pretty much a cross between your parent on their best day and your elder sibling on their best day. Find a teacher who basically you want to be like. Because if you use the techniques a teacher gives you, you're going to wind up being like that teacher. And so don't make the mistakes I did and say, well, this teacher is a raving shithead, but he's the only teacher about, so I'm going to learn from him. Yeah, that doesn't work. So practice the teachings. One of the Dalai Lama's late teachers used to say that if you cannot find the time, an opportunity to practice, continue cherishing the desire to practice, and things in your life will shift. Similarly, if you have difficulty finding a teacher, either in person or over the intertubes, and continue cherishing that desire, a sincere desire. Don't lie to yourself, because I've met people who really didn't want to practice, but they wanted to feel spiritual for not practicing, and so they would lament that they couldn't find a worthy teacher, and they were always trying to find or fabricate reasons why a teacher wasn't worthy to be their teacher. And after a while, they got very, very good at fabricating reasons that they couldn't benefit from teachers. But it was sort of like a hollow victory. So, sincerely desire to practice, and things will shift. Sincerely desire to receive teachings that work, and then practice whatever teachings come your way. Give it any teaching you receive. The 14 practice test. What's the 14 practice test? Simple. You receive it in your technique. Either you dream it, it dawns on you, or you read it in a book, or you hear it from a person. Try it once every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days, and then take an assessment. What are your results? Are you more peaceful or less peaceful? Are you more joyful or less joyful? Are you more loving or less loving? Because if a technique is going to make you so cranky that people call you Little Darth Vader, it's probably not a good technique for you. So there you have it. We do not have to believe the lies of patriarchy. We do not have to live our life from scarcity and fear. We can play with the idea that if you desire enlightenment and you actively seek it, honestly and vulnerably, you will find opportunities to practice, and you will find techniques that work for you. In conclusion, to borrow a line from our friends in the 12-step program, it works if you work it, so work it. Oh, look, it's Brock. Let's see here. When we do the chanting and recitations, is that esoteric Buddhism like Kokai, lightning fast path? Well, it depends. I've got a really annoying answer for you, Brock. By the way, that's a wonderfully butch name. It sounds like a superhero or an action star. I'm Brock. I'm here to save the day. I'm Jigme. I have the most popular name in Tibet. Man in crowd on left. That's me. So, not all chanting is created equal. So, let's get right to it, and I'll do my best to answer your question. I'm going to tap button 14. So, this is the Monday evening selection of Gaurab Dorje's Spaciousness of Vajra Sattva. Now, is this an esoteric practice? It depends who you ask. If you ask an elitist, they say, oh, this is a very special, spooky practice. And if you practice it wrong or prematurely, the trap door will open beneath you and you'll be transported to Vajra hell. You always know who the patriarchs are. You always know who the fundamentalists are because they have hell on tap, don't they? Let's see. My display has a little obscured, so. Aha. Well, I love the name Brock. Brock's a cool name. I hope it doesn't offend you if I address you as such. If it does, let me know. So, if you persist with this text twice a day, every day, within a week, you'll get through the entire thing. This text is considered by some to be the be-all, end-all of Dzogchen. And it teaches that the fundamental meditation technique, which we're going to explore in like 3 minutes, the fundamental meditation technique is all you need. It's all the guru you ever need. It's all the mantra you ever need. It's all the yadam or deva you ever need. It's all the maha yoga you ever need. It's all the anu yoga you ever need. So there are some people who love the bells and whistles. In my youthful ignorance, I wanted magic. I wanted to do the Jedi mind trick on cops and elected politicians. And so I did everything. I studied every spooky technique that is practiced in Tibet. And after multiple decades of practice, I've come to the same conclusions as the author of this text. That the meaning of life is not magic. The meaning of life is not trying to control our circumstances or our companions, or our body, or our relationships, or our mind. The meaning of life is found in making peace with those things. Now, making peace with those things is not like, I feel peace when things are exactly the way I want them to. That's childish. The peace the Buddha offers us is being able to make peace with the external world, even when it's a bubbling bucket of poop. And to make peace with our inner world when our reaction to the bubbling bucket of poop is tantamount to the same thing. The incorporeal aspect of the same thing. So you have a tangible boiling bubble of poop and an intangible boiling bubble of poop. And the Buddhist path is about being honest and vulnerable with the way things are externally, and being honest and vulnerable with the way things are internally, and making peace with it. Not through belief, not through logic, not through self-talk, but by using the magic of our autonomic nervous system, which we'll explore in just 3 or 4 minutes. So, I hope that answers your question. Let's chant. Supreme wisdom is difficult to realize except by the way of the wisdom of letting go itself. Dependence on others is merely a notion or suggested fiction. Since bliss actually arises naturally from within. And yet the miraculous is not beyond our recognition, due to intuitive insight into the natural state. Our innate capacities and spiritual powers come to the fore naturally from within our own inner depths. Real meditation is effortless letting go in the true condition. This is important. This is $1 million worth of advice right here. This true condition never appears to us as something which can be seen. Striving to grasp it, we prevent the recognition of its true nature. Nor can the supreme secrecy of the primal continuum be revealed by hearing about it. Nor can words reveal its nature even in the barest measure. So now, oopsie, wrong button. Now we're going back over to button 5. And we've come at last to meditation practice. Mindfulness and meditation are known by many words, such as Zen, Chan, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Atiyoga, Dzogchen, and Trekcho. What is the most efficient way to practice mindfulness? Silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during the inhalation. Why would you do that? During every inhalation, we are wired to effortlessly tune in to our sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved not to actively concentrate, but to merely perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. We can notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We could notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We can notice the inner, the outer, the physical, the mental, the pleasurable, the painful, the interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. What are we to do with all this stuff that we notice? Remember, we don't have to label it. The only label we're using is this. What is the key to meditation? To silently and mentally recite yes, in harmony with each exhalation. For each exhalation is already wired to grant us effortless access to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is evolved for both physical relaxation as well as mental release. This is it. This is the Buddha's technique. This is the synthesis of the 7 enlightenment factors. Practice this effectively every 12 hours. Start off 5 minutes a pop. When you're comfortable with that, you can boost it by 5 minutes to 10 minutes a pop. Every week, you can add another 5 minutes until after 12 weeks, you're comfortable with 60 minutes every 12 hours. Do that, and you will very soon, very quickly, master the Buddha's path. Let's meditate. Many decades ago, I had the very good fortune to be exposed to some of the teachings that were attributed to Sri Janadipankara, the Bengali saint, who when he came to Tibet was known as Atisha. And he was really about the simplification of practice. Having one yadam, having one mantra, having one meditation. In following in that practice, by the latter half of my first decade of practice, after reading a ridiculous number of books, I tried to find one book and just simplify it down. And I did. I stuck with that book for decades until something very scary happened and I outgrew it. I floundered trying to find another text. I'm very happy to say I found that text. It was very uncomfortable being between texts, but the text I found that I really can hang my hat on is Gaurab Dorje's Spaciousness of Vajra Sattva. So I've said all that to say this. There's a certain magic, a certain power in the simplification of one's practice. I'm reminded of a phrase attributed, perhaps a quip, attributed to our pal, the late great Albert Einstein, who said with his thick German accent that I cannot replicate, Any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and even more violent. But it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. So that's what I try to do, is skillfully, productively keep it simple and silly. Excuse me. If you've just tuned in, welcome aboard. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. In tonight's homily, we looked at a verse that used the word bliss. And it's the verse meant to remedy a mistake made by many people, including myself. And that is the mistake of chasing bliss. Whether it's chasing the next dopamine hit, chasing the next sexual adventure, chasing the next gourmand meal, chasing the next ecstatic experience. All of that, all of those are acts of indulging our controlling tendencies. When we surrender our controlling tendencies and flow from centered spontaneity, not be a doormat, but allow our choices and our utterances and deeds to flow from the loving, centered spontaneity generated from perception and relaxation. That in itself is the optimal bliss, the ultimate bliss, the most subtle bliss. That concludes this evening's meditation. If you feel that I've earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 11 or so hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early morning meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.